It is 5:30. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and as you can see, I'm not present, but I will do the best job I can. We don't need to do roll call, do we? Everybody's present except for Mr. Stewart this evening, and we need to adopt the agenda for this evening's meeting. Anybody would like to
Move to approve the agenda for this evening.
second? It's been moved by Ms. Santos, seconded by Ms. Martin. Could we have roll call vote, please?
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier? Ms. Kendall?
Yes.
Ms. Pham?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passed.
And we do not have any minutes?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, we do have
Yeah.
minutes.
I sent them out. It was quite a while ago.
Oh, she sent them out
Number of weeks ago.
weeks ago.
Weeks ago, which explains why I don't know that we had those. But we do, from June 20th, our last meeting. So does anybody have any additions or corrections or any changes to our minutes? We need a motion.
Move to approve the minutes of the June 20th board meeting.
Second? Been moved by Ms. Santos, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call, please.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier?
Yes.
Ms. Kendall?
Yes.
Ms. Pham?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, we'll be adjourning to closed session. We have, we don't have anybody in our public, so I'm assuming we don't have any comments. Conference with legal counsel is number 1. Number 2, conference with labor negotiations. And number 3, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and complaint, number 3. So without further ado, at 5:32, we're adjourning to closed session. Okay, it is 7 o'clock. We're going to start our meeting. Call it to order. You'll notice that I'm not Mr. Stewart, and you're all going to be very kind because I don't lead these meetings very often anymore, but we're going to do the best we can. So we're coming back. We have been in closed session since 5:32. We don't have anything to announce from our closed session, and I'm going to. Any volunteers want to lead the flag salute?
I will.
You will? Good, perfect. Where's the flag?
Oh, here it is. Okay, it's moved. Oh. We must have had some trainings going on that they moved the flag. Everyone stand and join me in the flag salute and take off your hat if you're wearing one. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to start with communications, items of interest from the board. Who would like to share something interesting since our last meeting in June?
I will.
Okay.
Hi, welcome back. And wow, I want to welcome Mr. Eichberger to our team. He got to start in with a cybersecurity issue that hit the whole county, and has been probably working all summer long trying to make sure our employees were paid on time. And I just want to say I appreciate that very much and appreciate all the positive communications going out to our employees, trying to assure them that they could go on their summer vacations and their pay would be there for them. So thank you, and let's hope this never happens again. There's a few items at the end of our agenda that address some of these issues.
That's it. Anybody else?
I would just like to say that sorry to see our USA girls soccer team lost.
Yeah, how was that? Yes, ma'am? No?
I'll just say I'm excited to serve on the board since December, but this will be the beginning of the first entire school year, and I'm just super excited about working with everybody.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to return back, and
really take to begin, as Donna had mentioned, um, a good start for us, and learning throughout the training for the past 7 months. We've been training on governance and meeting people, going to schools, and so I'm really excited about starting the beginning of the school year for a whole year. And I'd like to report, I don't know if you're aware, uh, my son, who is 24, was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. He's in special education, special needs, and he's doing good. He has his ups, he has his downs. He's going to have surgery pretty soon here, but I want to say thank you so much for reaching out to me. Keep us in prayer, especially him. He doesn't understand what's happening to him, but I just want to say thank you for reaching out.
I had the pleasure this morning of attending the Science of Reading, which was presented to our teachers. Stacy David, Shelley Kramer, and Shelby West. We had phenomenal presenters, and they were presenting in one of our new classrooms over at the high school, which was also wonderful. It had a stage at one end, which I couldn't believe. It was wonderful. I told Dr. Fawcett it made me want to go back into the classroom, try out all these things that I'm hearing.
Don't rush.
Don't rush. It was wonderful. So I think those ladies are going to be very busy for the rest of this year. The room was very crowded, and there were lots of questions and excitement, and everybody was anxious to get back and try some of the things they were hearing. It was very good. Dr. Feldman. Report.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Mayor. First of all, I'd like to just start off with a big thank you for our facilities department. They've been here all summer working on all the campuses, and we've had a ton of bond work going on, and we've had a ton of work just getting the schools ready to receive kids next week. And this is one of the busiest times of year for them, when all the staff starts to return and to wonder about the projects that are happening on the campus and pointing out areas that need to be repaired and fixed. And they're just awesome. They're responsive. They jump right to it. And they do a lot of incredible work. And I see Mr. Stinson out there in the audience, and I hope he really accepts his team. Thank you so much for making sure everything works well. And then our PAC, we had our PAC retreat this past week, and PAC stands for Principals and Cabinet. And so all of our principals returned last week, and our co-administrators did. And we had a 2-day retreat with them focused on leadership development and launching professional learning communities, student data analysis, kind of analyzing our attendance rates in the district and across the state, and putting strategy behind how we address that and getting kids to attend school more often, which is a challenge because we've had a lot of illness too that's also impacted them, and we want kids to be safe and healthy when they're at school. Human Resources, Curriculum, and Business all gave updates from their departments, kind of nuts and bolts and expectations for the year. And then we ended it the first day with a celebration at McClintock's. They treated our administrators to a nice light dinner, and it was a fun time just to gather and celebrate and have them feel like they're celebrated as well too. So that was just a great way to kick off the year with our admin team. This week, we got a surprise email. Miss Dixon actually did, and she said, "Hey, Paul, let's go check out Harlow. They're doing a workshop right now." And we ran over to Harlow, and they were learning about the mathematical practices and how they progress throughout the grade spans. And the whole entire teaching staff was there before they're required to be on campus, learning and setting up and planning for the year. And they were excited and smiling and working together and sharing their learning in a way that was just amazing, and it was heartwarming. And I just want to celebrate them for that outstanding work and dedication and coming back early to make sure this year is a great year. And then everybody in the district right now is making sure that we're first day ready for our kids, that everything will be in place, that all the staff will be there ready to receive the kids at the start of the school year. And I'm excited for a great school year. But before we go and look forward to the school year, I want to talk a little bit about Summer Blast. It was the biggest ever summer program that we had, and there were two people in particular that really helped with the planning, and it was a year-long process getting this program stood up. There was a ton of staff that were hired. There were all kinds of things that had to be planned for and thought out. Wendy Bruce oversees the program, and then Spencer Finkel and Ashley Madsen were assigned to making it come to fruition. So I'd like to have Spencer, who's going to be the Lang Elementary principal next year, and Ashley Madsen, who's going to continue to be the vice principal over ELOP and also serve some of our elementary schools, come on up to the podium, and they're going to give us an overview of the celebration that we have for running such a successful program. So thank you two for coming up.
All right, thank you so much for having us. Like he said, it was a wonderful summer, and it was the first time we ever were able to hold a size this big in our summer school. We've changed it to be Summer Blast because we blasted off with some fun, exciting classes.
Just kind of the nuts and bolts of what happened this summer. We served. This table's broken up into all of the students at each of the sites, but it was just about 900 individual students from first grade through eighth grade, either attending the first, second session, half or all day. So you can see we were originally planning for about 200 students per session. We got a little bit more when you factor in the all day, but we were well attended at the middle school level even, but especially at our elementary school levels. And I just really want to, we were the architects in the planning stages, but really it was a lot of our Lucia Mars staff with a few additional hires that made it all come to fruition. 88 teachers worked throughout the summer just for this first through eighth grade program. 48 summer assistants, which all but 3 were high school students that were employed by the district to get some great work experience. 7 lead teachers, 5 secretaries, 2 counselors, and then it was tough to count the additional staff throughout the district, but the custodians, bus drivers, food services, and additional administrators that made it all happen. We kind of stepped back once it started to happen, and it was great to see them. We surveyed parents at the end of it just to get a little bit of data to help us plan for the next and see how it went during this summer. One of the main questions we asked is why did they choose to participate in Summer Blast? Was it because it was a free program, the flexibility in schedule, or the offerings? And all of our families, or most of our families, really chose that it was the enrichment opportunities. And when we say enrichment opportunities, it's kind of those extra things that we can't fit all of what we want to fit in the school year because we're so focused on the core instruction. So things like vocational skills. We had a ceramics class at the middle school, which I know they get in high school, but something that those students don't get. And then the other primary one was academic advancement and social opportunities. So those are things that we really focused on this year and that we'll definitely focus on in the future as we're planning.
So different types of classes, like Mr. Finkel said, we had the ceramics. Some other well-liked classes was cookie decorating at the elementary level because we didn't have full kitchens for everybody, but we wanted to give them that culinary experience. Spanish was taught at Grover Beach Elementary. There was food truck, so they created their own businesses from start to finish in an elementary classroom. So they got to, look at the budgeting of opening a business of their choice. California Ag Explorers was out at Dana, and they did a lot of, agricultural lessons, and that was well liked by all. We had journalism and chess, lots of dance and yoga. So the kids really enjoyed, like he said, doing the different things that they might not get throughout the school year. Then we surveyed students and families and staff after each session, and some of their favorite activities were PE. So we had specific just general PE, and then we had maybe just a soccer class or just a volleyball class. They also, as you can see in the graph, loved the art classes. So the drawing, the ceramics, the painting. Cooking was a hit, especially at the middle school. They got to use that kitchen at AGHS because that's where they were housed, and that was super awesome to go see them in action. They loved the math classes, which was fun to see because they made them fun. They made them exciting for the kids to be in. STEM, dance, Spanish. So they loved the classes, but it was nice for us to see, what were the favorites to kind of move ahead into next year.
One of the most important questions we asked parents was what was their overall satisfaction rating out of 5? And to me, this data point is pretty incredible. 4.5 on average. Most of our responses were at the 5. Our families really loved this program. From the idea of it and looking at it in practice. And we had opportunities to provide some free responses. And these are just a couple of the highlights, and I'll just, you can read them. But the one that, this was a lot of hard work. The payoff for it was my child looks forward to school now. And that is just like job well done as educators. So overwhelmingly, it was positive, and that was just one. Got a little bit of a teacher feedback. Their overall satisfaction was very high, 4.0 out of 5. And then asking why they chose to do it, we got a lot of feedback. We kind of took, and talking to teachers, I said, I know that you're here because you love kids. What are the other reasons? And the being able to work for their hourly rate was a huge reason that we got teachers in this, as well as that flexibility in schedule. Because just like our kids got to choose kind of when they were there, we got teachers that said, I could just work 15 days for the whole day and then enjoy my summer. I could do just mornings. And so I think it just kind of shows to the what we offered was a lot of what made it enticing for our staff as well.
So then we just added a few pictures so you guys could see the kids in action. So on the left is a cookie decorating class. So they designed a cookie and then the next day they decorated it. So it was every other day they got to take home a cookie that was decorated. They learned one day was about flowers. They learned about flowers. They learned how to draw the flower. And then the next day they got to decorate the cookie based on the flower they drafted the day before. The one on the right is playwriting and performance. So they worked together in groups to create a play and write a play. And then at the end, they recreated their settings and their costumes, and then they were able to perform the play. So this was kickball, so a PE class. The one on the right is a STEM. That's a volcano erupting. So just some exciting things for the kids to do. At Dana, here's another. They're in their gloves with their safety gear, creating some STEM projects. So the one in the middle looks like they made some dirt pie with the worms. And then on the left and the right, they're kind of, investigating what's in those glass jars. So some science was really fun for them. This was on the left, maybe on the right also. This was also Dana, the California Ag. So those are eggs on the left, and then they were doing the clay pots with the flowers stamping inside on the right.
They're standing on the eggs.
Right. They are. Readers Theater, so they read some different plays, got to make their own costumes. The little boy on the right, it says I'm a narrator number 2, so he knew what role he was in his play. And then here's just a snippet.
My favorite thing about Summer Blast is that
Sorry.
My favorite thing about Summer Blast is that I made a lot of friends. But my favorite classes are ceramics and also hip hop and also PE. Because the reason why is because the track is very big, but when you get to walk the track, it's very nice. It's relaxing. We also get to play pickleball and some basketball and stuff. It's really fun, and you should come to Summer Blast.
So just one student, and that was a middle school student. And then to end it today. So thank you for having us. We had a wonderful time planning it. It was a lot of behind the scenes, but then to be able to see it actually blast off and become successful for our students. He is departing me to go to Dorothea Lange next year, but we're very excited to start planning in these early stages for Summer Blast 2020.
Very exciting to see what you guys have done. I think in that one science experiment, they were making butter. A jar that looked like butter to me. if
Could have
you've
been
done that
shaken
before.
better.
What fun. And maybe that'll inspire some other teachers to come up with some inspiring classes for next year. Very nice.
These two are outstanding leaders, and they pulled off an outstanding program, and it was definitely better for our kids. So we appreciate both Spencer and Ashley. Thank you so much. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I failed to mention, if you have public comment, we have speaker cards that need to be handed to Marilyn over here. They're out in the lobby. And I think that's all I really need to address that I forgot to say. Okay, moving on. We have consent calendar. There are 26 items on the consent calendar. Are there any items that a board member wishes to pull at this time? For some reason?
I just have a comment after we approve them.
Any questions about the consent calendar? Do we have any input from the audience on the consent calendar? Seeing no one, I'll come back to comments from the board.
I just wanted to say, on number one, personnel actions, there was more than one individual who once was a paraprofessional and now is a special ed teacher. And it's just lovely to see that the county, along with Lucia and just encouraging some of our great employees to reach their highest potential and move forward in their career ladder, and encouraging them to become teachers. And I think that's awesome. We saw that last year too, but I picked it up immediately when I went through all the 3 pages of names to see who's retiring and who's leaving us and who's joining us. So that's it.
That looked good.
You gonna make the motion?
Yes, I'd be happy to make the motion.
Okay.
I move approval of items 1 through 26 on tonight's consent calendar action items.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Nemi Vignay. I haven't said that very often. I hope I didn't do it. And we need a roll call.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier?
Yes.
Kendall?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Over time, 26. We're
We've
good.
done with 26. Okay, reports and presentations, resolutions, and proclamations. Number 20, item 27 is report, the 45-day revise. And Mr. Eichberger, you're on. First time. Don't get nervous.
He's back.
We're so happy you're here.
Being that we're already to item 27, that means I can take an hour for the 45-day revise. That's awesome. I am very excited to be here presenting today on our 45-day revise. Quick reminder, the 45-day revise is set in education code, and the goal is to look at any adjustments that have been made since our budget was set in June. So by statute, within 45 days, when the governor actually works with the legislature to establish the final budget for the year, we then look at what those changes in revenues are and the impacts to our budget and come back with a 45-day revise. So that's what I am going to be doing for you right now. The first couple slides I'm going to share with you are really setting the foundation. So what have we seen in terms of the Budget Act? We are seeing as a background the U.S. gross domestic product, or GDP, the economy, if you will. starting to slowly rebound. Now, when we think about quarters 1 and 2 from last year, they were bad. Negative GDP, not a good thing. It has rebounded a little bit. In fact, it's better than the projections. The projections were 1.3 and the average right now is 2, which is positive because what that means is we are seeing an increase or the budget is rebounding. However, there are some headwinds, meaning there's still a lot of uncertainty. Some of that uncertainty is the fact that they've postponed when personal income taxes are due. So instead of that June deadline that everyone, we know what the money is going to be by in June, instead it's October. So that means we could have a really scary Halloween or we could have a positive Halloween. We don't know yet. And that will be partially dependent on those personal income taxes. The good news, along with the economy bouncing back a little bit, is that the actual stock market's looking positive. That is a key indicator for our top 1% earners. And when we think about personal income tax, the lion's share of that does come from that key group, that key demographic. Other things to think about, inflation has slowed, meaning the work that the Fed has been doing, has been successful, meaning that 9.1% inflation we were experiencing in June is now down to approximately 3%, which does help us with our purchasing power. However, that is still an economic headwind that we are facing. So what does that really mean? Well, flip a coin. We don't know. And the Anderson forecast, which is the UCLA forecast, that is the gold standard of, they say, this is what you can expect for the budget this upcoming year. And they have actually provided 2 different forecasts, meaning they don't know. They are providing one forecast where it is no recession and one forecast with a minor recession. And what does that look like? Well, it could be the difference of $50 billion for the state in terms of revenue, meaning we have to remain cautious and consider what that governor's budget in January might look like. Because when we think of our funding, that is mid-year for our budgeting purposes. So it's really important that we keep an eye on those key indicators. Good news, there is right now $22.3 billion in the state's rainy day fund. So if that mild recession or slight recession does occur, the state does have some means to soften that blow a little bit for us as a district. One other indicator that we have to take into account is attendance. I know that overall average daily attendance is something that we monitor, and it's not something that we alone are facing. The state has poured a ton of money into education, meaning per pupil, the amount of money has gone up. The challenge is the number of students has gone down. So this graph shows that little line is the average daily attendance for the state of California over the past 10 years. And you'll notice there has been a steady decline. Talk about that a little bit further in the presentation, but it's definitely something that we have to consider, because even though education has been receiving more money, it's still faced with that challenge of declining enrollment and poor ADA. One last cautionary headwind is the current budget of that 8.22% COLA is built on some one-time spending, meaning there was some shifts in the Budget Act to be able to make sure those that 8.22 COLA could be met. And that is just something to think about, that while there is a lot of money being poured into education, it needs to be met with a little bit of caution in terms of there was some one-time money that was spent by the governor and the legislature to make this happen. So that's definitely something that we will continue to monitor. So today, the purpose really is to look at what do those foundational components mean to us. So a few things that we'll look at is the specific LCFF increase, the different add-ons, some block grant discussions, and ultimately the impacts to Lucia. Great news, 8.22% COLA. Fantastic. Challenge is it is based on average daily attendance. That COLA is set on students, not our regular budget. So it is not a direct 8.22% increase. You'll notice where that green arrow is, that denotes the changes or the increase. That is what we are going to be receiving for each student in terms of funding. So this is the dashboard that shows for each TK student, we'll get almost $14,000. For each 12th grade student on the other end of the spectrum, we'll get $12,300. And this is the dashboard that we use to estimate our revenues. So good news, gone up for each ADA. Bad news, ADA trends, declining enrollment. One thing I'd like to point out is, as I shared before, it is a statewide trend. Lucia, not any different than the state average, unfortunately. We are seeing not only declining enrollment, but also lower ADA rates than we did prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. That is going to be a concerted effort by our PAC this year, meaning we are already digging into some of those key reasons why students are missing school and looking at some ways that we can support them in actually attending. Not just because it's part of our funding formula, because if kids aren't here, they're not learning. So it's important that we focus on getting them here. The actual enrollment data, this is just the trend so you can see. We have, last year, we dropped almost 200 students. Now, when we think about that in terms of actual funding, using real-time numbers, if we take an average at approximately 11,500 per student, a declining enrollment of 200 kids is $2.25 million in reduced revenue for the district. That equates to approximately 2.5%. So when we think about the impact of that declining enrollment and ADA, it does have a direct impact to our budget. Now, I don't want to be totally negative, so I made sure I slid in a positive. Lopez High School qualifies for the LCFF equity multiplier. During the budget, when we left in June, we didn't think we were getting any of this money. In fact, in the county, it was really the idea only the court and community schools, the juvenile hall, would see this kind of equity multiplier money. We were pleasantly surprised to see that Lopez High School qualified for the equity multiplier to the tune of $131,000. Now, this is extremely restricted funds. There will have to be writing to how we are going to supplement and not supplant in the LCAP. So Ms. Dixon and the curriculum department, myself, already have a scheduled meeting with the principal and assistant principal of Lopez High School. We are going to talk with them about how they can, or how they are going to gather their stakeholder input and look at how the educational partners can provide feedback into how they would like to see those monies spent that fit within the parameters. And you will be hearing more about that in the near future as they start to develop their plan. But that is some fantastic news. Again, restricted funds, supplemental, not supplant. Back to the bad news. But it's also good news. Grants. When we left in June, we were under the assumption that we were losing a ton of one-time money, to the fact that we didn't think we were going to get the second half apportionment of the arts, music, instructional discretionary block grant, meaning we thought we were going to lose or not be funded almost $3 million. Great news, state. The difference between the May revision and the actual budget deal was only a reduction of about 5.5%, which is a heck of a lot better than $3 million. So what you'll notice if you look at the difference between the enacted budget and the May revision is that the reduction is not as bad as we thought. So we did have a reduction of 335,000 and some change, which is a lot of money. Significantly better than a reduction of $3 million.
Yeah.
And you might be thinking, what are we going to be doing with those funds? The board has already set priorities. There are things that have already been purchased. There were things that we said we might not be able to purchase. Some things that the money has already been allocated for, and some things are actually being put in place: perimeter fencing, vape detection, and upgraded camera system and software. So those are some projects that have already been put in place, and we can look at augmenting some of those other board priorities as well. Next is the side. A slide disappeared. Okay, sorry. The next is Proposition 28, and this is the arts additional money that will be coming to the district to the tune of just under 1.6 million. So this was actually a positive change, and you will have Ms. Dixon share a little bit about the expansion of the visual and performing arts a little bit later in item 31, so I will not steal her thunder. The next block grant or grant type item is the expanded learning opportunity funding. And this one, the reduction of $215,000 is not because of a reduction in funding. This is a direct result of our declining enrollment and our unduplicated numbers. So we are going to see a little bit of a reduction there. However, overall, the budget is sound. Just as a reminder, the things that can be paid for out of the things that can be purchased out of the expanded learning opportunity are any of those before and after school programs that are designed to primarily target our unduplicated students. So our English language learners, low socioeconomic status, and foster homeless. So they are given priority to those before school and after school programs as part of this program. This is not a new slide, so I'll just go over it very briefly. We are still experiencing pension pressure. This is something that CSBA does every year, attempt to rally and get some pension relief. Unfortunately, this year we did not see any pension relief. In fact, when we look at the economy and those pension pressures, those aren't going away anytime soon, unfortunately. So what do we need to do? Look ahead. And while the future is a little murky, there are some things that we can continue to monitor that will help us continue as we look at our multi-year budget. The first is looking at those personal income taxes. So we will be watching that very closely. We'll also watch the stock market because that does impact our income tax for our top income earners. And then we are going to look at our enrollment. We had our first enrollment meeting today with our 3 departments and had a chance to meet with the LMUTA president and discuss where we're looking at in terms of student enrollment and class sizes. And we will continue to monitor that every day as we look at that enrollment prior to the start of school. That is something that is very important to us in conjunction with our attendance efforts this year. And what are the next steps? So the first thing is there have been changes that we've talked about. Overall, they're positive. We will continue to work on our update for the unaudited actuals. We are waiting though. You'll notice there's a couple dates there. Normally, unaudited actuals are done at the beginning of September. There was a cyber incident at the County Office of Ed where we were without our financial system for 45 days. At 45 days is when our business department is closing out the budget from last year, rolling over the budget to this year, and it was impossible to do the majority of their normal things. I do want to just take a quick moment to really commend the efforts of Director Siebert and the rest of the business department. They worked really hard this summer. And the endless hours that they put in, it wasn't so that they could work 4 tens. It was they were doing 3 times the amount of work because they were doing things by hand. And that hasn't stopped. They're still having to go in and re-enter data from last year as we are trying to get the books clean so we can roll over for our unaudited actuals. So just know they've been working tirelessly and they will continue to do so. So I just want to really thank the business department, especially Director Siebert, because she has been leading the team and they have been doing a phenomenal job. I am so thankful to be able to work with Rhonda and the business department. So just have to put my plug in there. Ultimately, we will have our next MYP at the first interim. That will most likely be in December, and that report will have the unaudited actuals, the 45-day revision in terms of revenues, and updated expenses as we look at staffing shifts and changes based on what we know now with the students that we have. Any questions?
Questions?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the presentation and welcome. What's the expected enrollment for this year? I mean, what?
Excellent question. And I didn't put it on there because we're hopeful that it's going to bounce back a little bit. Our projected ADA is 9,444. So we are looking at a decrease. Our assumption is built on a reduction of approximately 150 students.
And another question, thank you. So you referenced absenteeism quite a bit, especially in regarding budget. So what are we doing to bring absenteeism up?
That is one of the key things our principals and cabinet are working on this year. The first step was evaluating the reasons why students aren't coming to school. So everything from illness to anxiety, transportation, other reasons why students aren't here. That was the first step. We are also then going to be starting a campaign and working with principals on hitting attendance and the importance of getting their students to school in their newsletters, their monthly newsletters, their emails to parents, talking about that at back to school night. Those are the key things that we are going to really focus on, as well as are there services that students are missing? Do we need to connect them with SAFE? Is there something else that's causing them to not be at school? So we are definitely going to be a little bit more aggressive this year in terms of addressing those attendance issues.
So thank you. In regards to, have we thought of maybe knocking at their door?
There have been home visits that have been done.
I'm open to that. I would love to do that.
That is something that I know there are, especially our secondary administrators, That is quite a common practice to do home visits. Oftentimes, it's the knock at the door. Hey, I have the district van here, and we're leaving in 5 minutes, so get your stuff. But there are definitely home visits that is also part of our school attendance review board steps. Meaning, if a student is going to be recommended for SARB as a chronic absentee student, a home visit is one of those elements that we always attempt to do. Trustee Martin?
Well, I think strategically placing pajama day on the elementary calendars might help. That's something, the day after Halloween, definitely pajama day. Anyways, I have a question for you. What are we hearing, and even Ms. Mayor might know this, what are we hearing about not having taxes due in October for the following year? Is it going to go back to April
Yes, it's
15th?
already been set.
Because this is a institutional nightmare that they created on their own. And
April 15th is the deadline
next year.
of April 15th, 2024. It's already been set.
Good.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor.
Yes.
That's good news for us.
Yeah, because it's not just us. It's the entire state that they've created this kerfuffle for. So I'm glad to hear it. But I do think strategically placing pajama day on the calendar for attendance improvement is a good idea. We also used to do this thing called Saturday School, which increased our ADA for a student who had missed school during the year. They couldn't just come if they never missed school, but to make up an absenteeism. And we did that during the recession as a way to build our ADA. It's something we might think about. FYI.
I will make a note.
Anybody else? Question?
It's just nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Any comments from audience members on this item? Anybody have a comment? This is a report only. You did quite
Yes.
well, thank you.
Report only. Thank you.
Very nice. And I totally understand about October 16th.
Yeah,
I'm still doing taxes.
it's crazy.
It's crazy. Okay, item number 28 on. And Mr. Eichberger, you're on again for this one. Approval, mitigated negative declaration, Arroyo Grande High School Auxiliary Gymnasium Project, finding that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment, and adoption of Resolution A-232401, adopting an initial study and mitigated negative declaration with mitigation measures for the Arroyo Grande High School Auxiliary Gymnasium Project, adopting written findings pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act and the California Education Code, and delegating authority to staff to execute the notice of determination.
Thank you.
That for after science of reading.
A mouthful for sure. The great news, we can abbreviate and call it an MDN or MND for the mitigated negative declaration. What that means is we can put steps in place based on a preliminary study to not have huge impacts throughout construction. So this is a compliance step prior to us being able to enter into a design build. A design build, for your refresher, is where we would partner with a architect and builder who work together on this project. And if approved today, we could see construction start as soon as 16 or 18 months. I know. That's because this project would go through the Department of State Architecture, or DSA, and that process alone takes between 12 months and 14 months. So really, the approval of the MND and then the approval to move forward with finding a partnership for a design build would start the ball rolling so that we could start this auxiliary gym project.
Any questions?
Okay. So I read the report. I do have a question. Flood report. it references flood report 2012. Isn't there any later date flood report? I mean, because just so you know, I owned a home very nearby, and I know that area does get flooded.
I would defer to Executive Director Stenson. Is there a more current flood report for the? Thank you.
So will that report be in the addendum? Maybe.
If it's
Or
completed in
attached to-
time, that would be included in any addendum.
I just have a question ahead of time. Mr. Stinson, you're listening to me. So I know that the majority of the parking is going to be below the road, and then just the disabled parking will be adjacent to the building. Do we have to work with the city to designate it a designated crosswalk now that that's a public road? It's no longer our road, it's the city's road. So, because we're definitely going to want to corral the attendees for using a crosswalk to cross that road.
That'd be great.
The short answer is yes. We have been working very closely with the city. The city is very much in support of this project. As part of the project, we will be required to install curb gutter sidewalk along that thoroughfare, and there will also need to be a crosswalk as well. And that's all. That will all be established during the design phase.
Okay, and the city goes along with, we work with them as to where the location of the crosswalk
Yes,
is.
right.
Okay, great.
We actually defer to them typically.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments from anyone in the audience on this item? Any other comments from the board? And this is up for an approval.
No, it's a public hearing. You need to.
Public hearing
Well,
next.
It's approval.
I'm looking at 28 and it says approval.
Approval.
29 says public hearing.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. You're right. Sorry.
Do you make a
So
motion?
we need a motion.
I move approval, mitigated negative deck, Arroyo Grande High School Auxiliary Gymnasium project, finding that the project will not have a significant effect on the environment, and adoption of Resolution A 232401, adopting an initial study and mitigated negative declaration with mitigation measures for the Arroyo Grande High School Auxiliary Gymnasium project, adopting written findings pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act and the California Education Code, and delegating authority to staff to execute the notice of determination.
I second.
Go with Santos on this one. I did. Okay. Been moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Santos. We need roll call.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier.
Yes.
Ms. Kendall.
Yes.
Ms. Pham.
Yes.
Ms. Mayer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item number 29. This is the public hearing, draft initial study, mitigated negative declaration, Arroyo Grande High School Auxiliary Gymnasium project. So this is a repeat of what you just did.
This is for the public hearing in case anyone would like to comment on the actual project.
So I am opening the hearing at 7:51. Everybody's rushing up, and I'm going to close the hearing, seeing no one coming forward at 7:52. And then we're going to move on to item number 30. You are the star tonight.
Diving in.
Item number 30, approval, adoption of resolution A-2324-02, approving the Arroyo Grande High School Auxiliary Gymnasium project.
So this is the approval for staff to move forward with seeking project team to build the auxiliary gym.
Any questions?
I have a question. Since the men's club, they were very involved with this. Were they informed that this was on the agenda tonight? Do you know?
Yes, we've been in communication with them all along the way.
Thank you.
Any comments from anybody in the audience? Any comments from board members?
I just think this is going to be outstanding because so many times out there, all the gyms are taken up and it's the whole community that uses it. So not only for our district, but for the community involved altogether.
What type of feedback have you gotten from the community project? Just
I do know that Dr. Fawcett has met with residents that would be potentially experiencing the effects of the construction. They did know about the project and the ability to speak this evening, and the feedback has been what was shared by board members so far. Excitement about adding square footage to support not only the students of Lucia Mar, but also the community. When we think about, we'll use Five Cities Youth Basketball, and over 1,000 kids, most of which are Lucia Mar students, having access to indoor gym time. Our middle schools having opportunities to have or host small tournaments, whether that's intramural amongst their own schools, they would now have a location for that. So it really does allow for a number of opportunities, and there are other community issues or events. If we think about renting it out to someone who wants to have a quilting fair or something like that, it would also open up the opportunity for the district to increase facilities use on a weekend or during times where the students aren't using that for PE. When we think of rainy days, instead of having 1,000 students in the gym throughout the day, it would be able to be divided between two facilities. So this really does open up a number of opportunities, not just for one particular demographic or group. So there are a lot of people that are excited about it.
great. I'm happy to hear that. We also have the Oceano Community Center as well, and that's being utilized. Am I correct?
It is. The Oceano Community Center is used for youth basketball as well as a number of other community events.
One of the events that was at the Oceano was the CTE programs when they did their, and that was full. So it's just another avenue that we have to locate for all these people and the community.
Okay, seeing no comments, entertain a motion.
I move approval of resolution A 2324-02, approving the Arroyo Grande High School auxiliary gymnasium project.
Second. Okay, been moved by Ms. Santos, seconded by Ms. Meunier. Roll call.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Vernier? Handel?
Yes.
Ms. Pham?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the input. Moving on to item agenda number 31. Ms. Dixon, report first reading new courses for music K-12 2023-2024 school year.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. And as Mr. Eichberger pointed out, we are very excited to be implementing our updated and upgraded visual and performing arts programs this year. We talked a lot about Proposition 28 last year, and part of the summer work, it started in the spring, but it has continued literally all summer, is to build out the expansion to the elementary music program, and that also includes some additional courses in our secondary system as well. I have to give a huge shout out to Kristen Anderson. She's our coordinator of career technical education. And I innocently asked her, would you like to work on visual and performing arts too? There's a nexus. And she, of course, said, yes, it is a big project. We've never actually tried to master schedule all 11 elementary schools. And it's been a lot. But as part of that, we are fully staffed. We have a lot of great new teachers that are starting with us, and we are also adding music pathways. So career technical education, we'll be celebrating them again at the OCC coming up this spring at both Arroyo Grande High School and Napomo High School, and that is what these courses represent. So they will allow an additional range of students who might not traditionally access a pathway to be a pathway completer through their high school experience. And that first course, Introduction to Professional Music, may be something that students access in middle school or as early as elementary school. So it's something that they can start there. So the two courses that will be most routinely offered at the high school level will be Intermediate Professional Music and Advanced Professional Music. And what we're excited about is not only will our courses give our traditional kind of exploration of music and music performance and all those sorts of things, but also will incorporate the professional side of the industry, which is a great opportunity for our students. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions? I enjoyed reading the descriptions.
I think they're going to be great classes.
I have a
looks
question. This is really exciting to me. I'm glad that we're doing this. And I looked up to see what AP courses are offered for music, and there's an AP music theory course. Do you foresee that if there's a lot of interest in this class, that could also be incorporated maybe as a culmination to the pathway, that we could offer an AP course?
Yes, we discussed that in my office today, and the answer is yes. We pride ourselves in Lucia in having a student-driven schedule as much as possible to offer the courses that our students want to take. Right now at Arroyo Grande High School, we do have a dual-enrolled music appreciation course, which offers college credit for students who complete it. But AP Music Theory is something we have had at AGHS in the past, and we have a great teacher, Paul Dunsmore, over there who could be interested in teaching it. We're adding an additional new teacher there as a part-time position. So it is possible, as long as the course outline required by the College Board matches what we need to fit into the CTE pathway, to have that as a completer course, or simply as an elective as we look to the future. So it's certainly in the realm of possibility.
Great.
Any comments from audience? Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to comment that having all of these classes is going to be pretty exciting for our students, especially being so close to Los Angeles and the Hollywood scene, and having film score and film harmonic scoring and commercial underscore. I think that's going to be a great little avenue for kids to explore, especially being so close to Southern California.
We're very excited about it.
Any other comments or questions? This is a report first reading. I'll look at it again in the future. Agenda item number 32, the report first reading, curriculum adoption, AP Literature, Arroyo Grande High School and Napomo High School.
Thank you, Trustee Mayor. I'm also pleased this evening to bring for the board's first look a possible curriculum adoption for our AP Literature courses offered at AGHS and Napomo High School. The College Board asks of AP programs and the teachers who teach them to update their course materials at least every 10 years. And AP Literature is something we've had for quite a long time at both of our large comprehensive high schools, and it was time for a refresh. We also have a new teacher at AGHS. You may know him, Christian Holst, will be teaching AP Literature there. And at Napomo High, we are glad to have once again Anika Gutschel, who's been teaching AP Lit there for quite a few years. Those are the only two teachers who teach the program. There's about 5 sections of the course currently slated for AGHS and 2 at Napomo High School. The teachers discussed together, reviewed available course materials, and in particular looked to see what the College Board is currently recommending so our students can have the most up-to-date materials that will help prepare them to hopefully pass that advanced placement test. That book that they selected together is Ideas in Literature by Williamson, Zell, and Davis. As this is a first reading, it will now be on public display both in person here at the district office. After tonight, it will go over to the curriculum department. There's a link to materials to review online as well, and we will bring it back at a future meeting for your hopeful approval. With that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Questions?
Isn't that the course you taught?
Actually, I taught AP Language and Composition, and I love that class, and I miss it.
Seeing no questions from the board, any comments from the audience? Any comments from the board members? Okay, it's report only, first reading, and that book, I wouldn't want to have to carry it around. I was checking it out before we started this evening.
We have double books for something like
We do. We'll have a class set and a book for home, so students won't be toting it back and forth.
Yeah.
That reminds me of college days, seeing a book that big.
Yes.
And we can come to your office to take a look at that book.
Absolutely.
All right, sounds good. Agenda item number 33, Ms. Dixon again, approval memorandum of understanding between Lucia Unified School District and Santa Barbara County of Education Office Children's Creative Project, yes, to provide various visual and performing art classes for our elementary schools 2023-2024, and this is so exciting.
We are very excited about this. The board may recall that when we discussed Proposition 28 last year, this is the other effort that we're making to get those other areas of the visual and performing arts into our schools. So with the Prop 28 funding, that gave us enough money to do the big music lift. You may recall that we surveyed our families and music was our #1 priority, so the board chose to invest in that as our primary goal. We are glad to be working with Children's Creative Project. They have been working with district schools for well over a decade, longer than that at individual sites to fund usually visual art lessons, but sometimes also dance and theater and some additional music. Those are typically in the past have been funded by individual PTOs and PTAs, which has been a wonderful benefit for students who are able to attend those schools where the parent organizations have been able to fund them, but it has not been consistent across all of our sites and changes from year to year. So I'm pleased to say that the Children's Creative Project will be providing in 10-week sessions for all of our students, TK through 6, focused on the California State Standards for the Arts. And I wanted to give you some examples because it just delights me to imagine what this is going to look like in our classes. So for example, our kindergartners are going to be doing dance, which is just going to be great. And one of the standards, which is KDA-CR1, is respond in movement to a variety of stimuli like music and sound, text, objects, images, symbols, observe dance. So a dance instructor might say, how would a tiger move? How would a dog move? How are they different? And the students would act it out. Another standard talks about improvising dance that has a beginning, middle, and end. And I don't know if you can join me in my imagining of that, but improvised kindergarten dancing is going to be a riot. I hope to bring you some video evidence of that wonderfulness when it happens. Theater is going to be offered at a variety of levels too. So again, this is just a 10-week session, so we won't be able to mount a big production, but they'll explore it a little bit. So second grade, for example, is doing theater. One of their standards talks about proposing potential new details to a plot and a story and a guided drama experience. So a teacher might say, we just watched a performance of the Three Little Pigs. What would it be like if there was a fourth pig, or if the wolf was a different animal, and explore things like that, and then let the kids act it out. So that will be exciting for them. And thinking about even how a production is mounted. Why are the lights highlighting these things on the stage? And then finally, visual arts is pretty self-explanatory. And I know, Trustee Mayer, you have a particular interest in that area, but 6th grade will be doing art. And so one of the things that they do, of course, is the main one, which is to create art, combining concepts collaboratively to generate innovative ideas for creating art. I love the idea of it being collaborative artwork. So if a group of students is provided a given set of materials, how might they craft a visual representation of a certain season or something like that. So all of these lessons will be focused on our standards. We're excited to implement these short 10-week courses and really to increase access to those sites, that equitable access to those sites who haven't always been able to have it. And I think it's going to be a great year. So I look forward to reporting on our hopeful successes with this project as we go through the year. With that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Forward to the reports. Any questions? Any comments from our audience?
Go ahead. Okay. Children's Creative Project has been around late 80s at least. And, you know, just the dance module or the theater module is such a nice gift to our elementary school teachers Now, they're still going to be there when that professional comes in, but they're just going to be helping that artist do what they need to do. And I remember from my own kids who are well and grown what that meant to do 10 weeks of dance. And they didn't get dance again until Pat Smith taught them how to dance before the first Paulding dance. She spent a week in PE teaching junior high kids how to dance. So when they went to their first dance, they didn't feel like they needed to stick to the wall. So I'm thrilled with this. I think it's be awesome. I'm glad to see the variety.
Wonderful. It's exciting. This is up for approval.
I move approval memorandum of understanding between the CMR Unified School District and the Santa Barbara County Office of Education Children's Creative Project to provide various visual and performing art classes for our elementary schools for the fiscal year 2023-24.
Second?
Been moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Santos. We need roll call.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Vernier?
Yes.
Ms. Kendall?
Yes.
Ms. Pham?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Before you go on, I just want to make a comment to Hillary. My dream is to get some of these kids who don't know anything about band or anything like that, I think we've talked about it before, is get those recorders, and have a small little marching band of these elementary kids so they could be in the parades and stuff like that. Is where other kids say, I don't know what to do. Well, they have something, they look forward to it.
Is it kazoos or
I thought it was
recorders?
going to be
Kazoos.
kazoos.
I am into the concept. I will share that with our music teachers. I think a kazoo band would be awesome.
It's so fun because they can dress up silly or however they want and play a kazoo and simple little songs that they can.
I will march along with them.
Okay.
I love it.
Dio
I got it.
Kazoo Band.
Agenda item number 34, Mr. Eichberger, approval, renewal of memorandum of understanding for Bright Futures after-school learning programs at Lucia Unified School District, fiscal year 2023-2024.
This is a renewal, meaning it is to support our Bright Futures programs that help all of our students after school. And it can be anything from working with the Boys and Girls Club of South SLO or Napomo Recreation Association and also the SLO YMCA. As a parent who has seen the value in a student who has the opportunity to participate in the program at Judkins the last 2 years, not only the after school homework opportunity time and support from the younger leaders that are promoting a positive image to our students in terms of success, to having opportunities to do physical activities and exercise after school as part of a structured program is truly a value add to the district. So this is a renewal MOU for all three programs.
Any questions? Any comments from our audience? Any comments from board members?
How come Paulding isn't included, or is there something up there for those in that area?
I couldn't hear the question. Go ahead. Ms.
Oh,
Dixon.
the question was how come Paulding isn't included? So originally, and I can just have Mrs. Pierce come on down because she's going to tell us exactly the reason. I was going to start the reason, but she'll have even better information.
Bright Futures grant is a competitive grant, and it's based on free and reduced lunch counts, and Paulding doesn't meet that criteria. Whereas ELOP is for all of our schools, Bright Futures is a competitive grant that we write every 3 years.
I just thought how sad those kids up there don't get anything.
We do work to offer after-school tutoring and things of that nature at Paulding, as well as at our high schools and other things like that. But this, for Bright Futures specifically, it's that grant process, and it relates to the student population.
Okay, thank you.
I do have a question, Linda. In regards to my kids participated in the Bright Futures program, both of them, and they loved it. So one was in special education and one wasn't. Is that open to special education as well?
Yes,
awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. This is up for approval, so we need a motion.
Move approval of award of contract to Dayani. No,
Oh, 34.
34, right. Move approval of renewal of memorandum of understanding for Lucia Unified School District, Bright Futures After-School Learning Programs, year 2023, 2024.
Second.
Over here.
Moved by Ms. Santos, seconded by Ms. Candell. Roll call, please.
Ms. Santos,
Yes.
Candell,
Yes.
Spam,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Vernier,
Yes.
Mrs. Mayer.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Agenda item number 35, Mr. Eichberger, again, approval, award of contract to Deanne Building Corporation as general contractor at Paulding Middle School for intern office project number 0586, Bond Fund 21.
So I looked at the price and thought, wow, that's an amazing price for that new office and classrooms. It is not. It is for a new fire alarm system at Paulding Middle School and a temporary office. Good news is this fire alarm system will allow us to make those important upgrades and then also have a temporary office for us to create a wonderful new classroom complex that will be over the footprint of the current office.
How long is that project going to take? When will students be in those classrooms?
Minimum 2 years, but I think, is that a good ballpark? Guess, keyword guess.
Yes.
We are hopeful.
All right.
Sooner than my house.
Yeah. Any questions?
Nope.
Any comments from our audience? Quiet tonight. Any comments from the board?
Well, yes, I have. Yeah. Wow, our bidding is getting tighter. Only 50,000 between 4 bids. 3 years ago, we would have had really wide bidding on projects like this, which means that's good. I'm glad to see it, and it always brings us back to Trustee Dahl when we think of tight bidding. But I'm happy to see it, and Deanne's worked for us before,
Yes.
and they're local, so I like it when we're working with local companies that hire local people, the parents of our students. So I support this.
I concur. Thank you.
All right, this is up for approval. We need a motion.
I move approval of award of contract to Deanne Building Corporation as general contractor at Paulding Middle School for interim office project number 0586, Bond Fund 21.
I second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Beignet. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Vernier,
Yes.
Candell,
Yes.
Spam,
Yes.
Santos,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Item number 36, approval, ratification, proposal for services from Breadcrumb Cybersecurity for a security posture assessment of the Lucia Unified School District's information technology infrastructure. I love their.
I know, I cracked up.
I did enjoy the name as well. When Dr. Havmos first shared it with me, it made me think of, those little crumbs that we find all over the sofa after our son or daughter has eaten that muffin or cookie or whatever it may be. And that's exactly what this company does, is they look for those little crumbs throughout our network. So there are 3 items out of the next 4 that are related. So I want to just give a brief overview of how they relate because it's important. If you think of a 3-legged stool that is our network and all of our software, if we think about security as a 3-legged stool, one of those components would be the visual surveillance systems that we have. So our cameras, we might not see the actual incident, but we can go back and look at footage. That's what Breadcrumb does. They are going through and they are looking for those little components within our system to seek out vulnerabilities and help us to make our network more secure. The second leg of that stool I'll talk about a little bit when we talk about Huntress and how that is like the security guard our campus security who's walking around with the students and that would, break up an altercation or catch a student that's vaping. They are boots on the ground, they're in person. And that third component is the actual classrooms themselves. And when we get to our server discussion, I'll talk about how this upgrade will allow us to have separate classrooms. The way we can lock our classroom doors and have them be separate, that's what the server upgrade will do. So if we think about it as a three-legged stool, that's what these three items are holistically. So this first one is breadcrumb. And ultimately, I want to start by just saying that we are so fortunate to have Dr. Havmos at the helm right now and for as long as he wants to keep doing it because he is phenomenal. And the brilliance of and forethought of the things that he wants to see to support the network were already in place when the cyber incident with the county office occurred. He was already thinking of these things and thinking about how we can protect our network better. And breadcrumb, that idea of that surveillance system, is looking for those vulnerabilities that he might not be able to see. And I did have a chance to speak with him earlier today, and he was very excited to say that they've already started asking some of the right questions. And they're looking to push on some of our tolerances within our system to be able to make it that much better. So the first item of that three-legged stool is for a contract for Breadcrumb Cybersecurity to do an evaluation of our security posture.
Any questions?
Only 21,000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No questions.
I just thought when he said a milk stool, and the 3 legs, it's just funny. You
Any
gotta be a
comments
farmer.
from our audience?
I can picture.
Any comments from board members?
Well, I see Dr. Hasselmus out there. Yeah. Thank you for all you've been doing and hopefully advising the county on what they need to do. 21,000 seems like a reasonable price to pay to get an assessment about everything that we need to put in place after what we experienced this summer. I'm glad that you brought them all together and bringing them tonight so we can get moving, because 45 days without our accounts payable and all that, that's silliness. We can't be having that. And so thank you, and it looks good, and I support it.
Okay, this is up for approval.
I'll move approval, ratification of the proposal for services from Breadcrumb Cybersecurity for a security posture assessment of the Lucia Unified School District's information technology infrastructure.
Second. Been moved by Ms. Kendall, seconded by Ms. Santos. Roll call.
Ms. Kendall,
Yes.
Ms. Santos,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier,
Yes.
Pam,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Agenda item number 37. This is the second leg on the stool. Approval annual subscription with cybersecurity firm Huntress for endpoint advanced threat protection EDR 24/7 monitoring.
I love the names these technology companies are coming up with. So if we picture that second component of the stool, Huntress is actually going to be the boots on the ground looking for when these data or cyber issues are actually happening live. Meaning that endpoint detection is if someone is being nefarious and attempting to get into one of our machines, they are monitoring them 24/7. So if we think about spring break at midnight on Thursday, our system is being monitored. And a component of that is not just the detection, but also the remediation, meaning it can isolate that particular device so that it would not be able to have access to the rest of the network. So this is a 1-year subscription given the current incident that we just experienced with Slowco. It was not our server, however, we saw the impact. This is really out of an abundance of caution. We want to make sure that our system is as safe as it can be.
Questions?
So that means our smart kids can't change grades?
I'm not promising anything.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
There-
really, when I think of a data breach, I think of kids changing their grades. I mean, and we have some really bright cookies that attend our schools who, if they thought about it, they probably could do that.
And I think we have it. I don't know that we've experienced it recently, but I have heard of times where students are savvy and they find ways to access a physical device. Sometimes that's easier to change grades when a teacher is not in a classroom if they haven't locked their door or something like
that's
that.
called
So
fraud. Yeah.
I will not say that it is impossible, but I will say that this will protect us as much as we can.
Great.
Comments from our audience?
I will let Dr. Havmos speak to it in more depth. However, the short answer is no. QSS and the issues that occurred with the county office were their system, not ours. However, it did show a need that we want to be sure that we are not exposing ourselves, especially with the proximity of the cyber incident.
The systems that are being put in place are specific to Lucia Unified School District and any traffic that may come into it. So, for instance, if the County Office of Education experienced something like this again, we would be able to catch it before it infected our systems is the goal and the point here. So.
Okay, this is up for approval. We need a motion.
Did you ask for any more public comment?
Okay. I move approval annual subscription with cybersecurity firm Huntress for endpoint advanced threat protection EDR 24/7 monitoring.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Santos. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier?
Yes.
Handel?
Yes.
Ms. Pham?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you, motion passes.
Item number 38, leg number 3.
No, we
Approval.
snuck a different one in. This is not leg number 3.
It's the next one that's leg number 3.
Yes,
Oh.
we'll come back to that.
Okay. So this isn't the stool. Approval, 5-year agreement for Mattel support, warranty, and related services with DataPath Incorporated.
So this is the person sitting on the stool.
Oh.
This is our phone system. And when we think about our voice over internet or VoIP, that is how we access our PA systems, our phones, and ultimately they require that network. So this is a 5-year agreement that would provide service support and warranty for our phone system. This is actually a great price when we look at the cost. It's actually for 5 years of service less than what we had paid back in 2018 when we initially installed the system. So it did go through a competitive bid process, and this is the winning bid through DataPath.
Any questions?
I'm assuming that our VoIP includes like our bells, our fire alarms, everything's going through the phones at this point, correct?
I believe the fire alarms are a separate system, but I would defer to the experts. I'm seeing nodding from the back. So we do still have, I like to call them our princess phones. So we do still have AT&T lines for each of our sites that are typically our fax machines. And in the event of a power outage or the internet going down, we do still have AT&T lines at each site as a redundancy.
Good, glad to know.
That at home too. Any comments from the audience?
So, just a question, real quick. So the voice over IP, they're going to be handling everything that has to do with our system. Is that what this is?
For our phone system, which does include the PAs, so the announcements to be able to do all calls.
All schools.
Yes.
I don't know about you guys, but if you read how long these kids have been in this business, I mean, what, 20 years plus, 20 years, 18 years, 15 years, and 5 years? I mean, we didn't even think of this. 20, 25 years ago. And now we're down to this. Young people.
Yeah. Mrs. Santos, when you were on the board and I wasn't, I remember coming to the board begging just for safety ways to have a regular phone in every classroom. That I felt like it was not safe to not have a phone this in every classroom. So we've come a long way. And we're paying for all sorts of things we never had to pay for before.
That's true.
Yes.
So it's just like, imagine Georgie O'Connor with an iPhone.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
Any comments from our audience on this item? Any other comments from board members? We need a motion on this.
I'll move approval of a 5-year agreement for Mitel support, warranty, and related services with DataPath Incorporated.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Candell, seconded by Ms. Martin. Roll call, please.
Ms. Candell?
Yes.
Ms. Martin?
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier?
Yes.
Ms. Pham?
Yes.
Ms. Santos?
Yes.
Ms. Mayer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Now we're to the final leg of the stool and the last item on our agenda. Approval contract with DataPath to upgrade and harden the Lucia Unified School District's existing network infrastructure.
Yes. So as I had shared the third leg of the stool, and I had used the reference of a actual physical building. So when we think about being able to lock a classroom door or a kitchen or whatever that room might be, it separates it from the rest of the campus. So when we think about upgrading our server system, what this does is, in conjunction with our firewall, is it not only locks the door to that classroom, but it puts up a barricade. And it prevents anything else from entering that particular classroom or that one separate silo. So it basically would allow us to segment our system by type of traffic. So instead of having servers where there's overlap and they all work together, what this does is it really programs through our firewall to where there's separate trusted networks, untrusted networks, and it really divides access to our whole system into separate components. And good news is Dr. Havmos had already started this effort, meaning we had put aside money, he had started looking at ways to do this, and he did the research looking at E-rate and the cost of the equipment that DataPath is going to be providing for us is amazing, meaning the cost of the equipment alone was less than if we were to purchase through E-rate. And it just shows the fact that we are really looking to have that best possible network, and a big part of that is due to Dr. Havmos's forward thinking and working with companies in advance to help build a system that really does support our students and our staff.
Any questions? Any comments from the audience? Board members? Ms. Martin?
So just like our houses, we're now paying for cell phones and cable and all sorts of things, you know, our Wi-Fi that we didn't even envision paying for 30 years ago, right? The school district, you can just amplify that. This is a $2.3 million purchase for our server infrastructure, which, you know, in 1980, we didn't spend $2.3 million on this. And that's on top of the other purchases we made tonight, just on IT, you know. So when people ask, you know, where's all our money going to? A lot of times on our facilities, there are things underground that no one sees, whether it's conduit for the Wi-Fi, and we brought Wi-Fi to the district, luckily, before COVID. Thank goodness we had a good system in place once we went to one-to-one devices, but it also requires so much care and feeding to keep the system going. So I just want to bring the importance of all this, that, you know, it wasn't just a cyber attack this summer that was devastating, but that we have to take care of what we have and keep innovating for what we have, because we're asking our students have more power. They all have a device. We have all our staff has a device. You know, we have gazillions of printers. You know, we could have a printer throwing room where whenever we're mad at a printer and they're dead, we could throw printers at them. But we have a lot of devices and a lot of IT needs just in a K-12 district. So I'm glad we're doing this. I trust Dr. Havmos. I'm glad he's on board to help us through all these good things to put in place to keep our district IT systems working. Because a day without the internet, when you do attendance on the internet or you can't send email, it's really hard for most of us to do our jobs, even teachers.
I think that we should have a Dr. Havmos Day.
I concur.
He's not nodding.
So I move approval contract with DataPath to upgrade and harden the Lucia Unified School District's existing network infrastructure.
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Martin, seconded by Ms. Santos. Roll call, please.
Ms. Martin.
Yes.
Ms. Santos.
Yes.
Ms. Naomi Bernier.
Yes.
Dell.
Yes.
Ms. Pham.
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
The motion passes.
So that's our last agenda item. The next thing on our agenda is public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have any speaker cards? Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to address the board at this time? Seeing no. Going to adjourn our meeting. Our next meeting will be August 22nd, a few days after the first day of school. So hopefully we'll be hearing some great things at that time.
We sure will
Forward
be.
to that.
First day of school is Thursday, August 17th.
17th.
Yes.
Yay.
So don't drive me to the high school around 8:30.
No, no.
Yeah.
Okay, we are adjourned at 8:34.